Hi everyone, and welcome back to Tuesdays with Tuesday. I'm Tuesday, and I'm going to read to you today from one of my books. I write fantasy fiction under the name Mary E. Twomey, and cozy mysteries under the name Molly Maple, and contemporary romance under the name Tuesday Embers. Today, we're in Fantasyland, and we're going to read the next chapter of Taste, which is book 1 in the Tearaway series. If you have not seen the previous videos, you might want to watch those first, because otherwise this is going to make very little, if any, sense to you. Can't see right now, but I've got my dog right next to me off camera, and so I'm very snuggly. Right now, we're in chapter 34. Are you ready? Chapter 34, Life of the Party. I've got this one with me too. I groaned internally at the crowd gathered in my average-sized home. There would be a parade of germs infesting my safe place, and I would have to just get over it. Life is messy, and that's okay. Germs in my home were the cost I had to pay in order to have friends in my life, so I made the concession with a forced smile. The regular crew was only 8 of us, but there were 12 cars parked on the street. This was a homecoming for Ollie, so I put my best "look at me, I'm social" smile as I walked through the garage door. I reminded myself that if not for these impromptu parties where my friends tried to force me to be more social, I would have no life at all outside of work. It was their way of being nice to me, making sure I didn't hermitize myself until the end of time. The kindness felt like a medicine I wished I didn't need to choke down, but knew I probably should. There were coasters not being used under the red plastic cups that held Gabby's famous punch. The pungent beverage served as both a party starter and a fire starter. She bounded up to me in her short skirt and wrapped me in a tight hug I reminded myself I had to enjoy if I was going to appear normal. Marcus had the heels of his boot on my glass coffee table. Only Gabby, Ollie, and Beto had taken off their shoes. Beto. I expected him to be here, but seeing him in my house made me introvert afresh. He caught my eye and smiled in his casual, "we didn't just break up again" way, and I gave him a 2-fingered salute. Mason was quickly descended upon by 4 women who fawned over his gorgeous fur, their cleavage on full display to him as they bent over. It was his lucky day, the dirty dog. Excited cries of, "What breed is he? He looks like a wolf!" and "When did you get a pet?" greeted me from my girlfriends. They were enraptured by him. And rightly so. Wolf Mason was gorgeous. Katrina lifted her cup to me in a hearty cheers that was echoed around the living room. "Bait's here, guys." I hated that they called me Bait. They were all around Ollie's age, which was 8 years older than me. So I had always been the official jailbait, even though I was 22 now. "It's been too long, kiddo." Jordan and Nick rushed me like the beer-chugging frat guys they would never stop being, even at 30. With silly grins on their faces, they crushed me between their bodies. "Not today, guys," I protested to no avail. I was still a little queasy and didn't relish the suffocating squeeze. "But you're my favorite dessert," Nick countered. "I haven't had an October sandwich cookie in weeks." Nick reached around me and hugged Jordan, who was pressed up against my other side, squishing me too tight. The affection was innocent and sweet, but I silently prayed for the friendliness to be over as I faked a laugh I'm sure nobody bought. They double hugged me in what felt like a slow public death, while I tried not to hyperventilate. Mason growled, his hackles rising at my discomfort. I don't know why it made me feel better, knowing someone got how uncomfortable this whole thing was for me. My friends had known me for ages, and Mason only a few days, yet he understood me better than they did. Even Ollie never intervened at these parties. He thought the baptism by fire way of being around all his friends might someday shake me out of the hermit routine. It was a sweet theory. "Hey guys, how's it going?" Once Nick and Jordan released me, I ran my fingers through Mason's fur to assure him that I was fine and that this was all normal. He rubbed his side to my leg, standing sentry so the guys would think twice before trying that again. I had to put a solid show of being social for Ollie's sake. I knew it hurt him when I hid in my bedroom during parties. I made polite chit-chat while Danny and Mary Ann stood in the doorway with wide eyes, surveying the scene. Vaughn pumped his fist in the air in time with the 80s rock music Gabby always insisted upon, despite the current decade. "I didn't know you were awesome, November," he called over to Rachel, my redheaded friend who was always quick to hit on the new guy. "You there? Something's wrong with this party if I've been here a whole minute and I don't have a drink in my hand." Rachel gleamed at the fresh meat I'd brought home for the kill. She poured him a drink that I'd learned to muscle my way through long ago. 10 minutes later, Vaughn and Rachel were making eyes and flirting on my couch. Marcus tried to insert himself into the mix. He was halfway to a state of drunkenness that usually took him 2 hours to devolve into. I wondered how long they'd all been here. So long as everyone obeyed my solitary rule of staying out of my bedroom, they could do what they wanted with the rest of the house. I'd made my peace with it long ago. The parties gave me a valid excuse to scrub the house from top to bottom. Ollie worried when I went off on a cleaning binge for no good reason, so at least I got something out of the night too. Gabby took it upon herself to bring the party together for a grand moment that always began with her standing on my coffee table. There was a reason I was never the one to invite them all to hang out at my house, and toe prints on my coffee table were only one of them. "Everyone, I have a few things I'd like to say in honor of our dear friend, Oliver James Reese." Ollie grinned through a few hoots at him being middle-named by the girl he'd never been able to shake. She raised her bangled, mocha-colored hands and reclaimed the attention. She was always good at that. "Ollie left us for bigger and better things in New York, and after 5 long years of searching for something more exciting than what we could give him, he's decided at long last to come back home where he belongs." She jumped off the table and wrapped her long arms and legs around Ollie, who kissed her in public, a thing he only did if he was caught by surprise. The house exploded in hoots and cheers and good-natured jabs. My mouth hung open in shock. Ollie had only told me that he was coming back for a few days. I had no clue he'd even been thinking about moving home. I mean, he'd mentioned things at work were getting stressful, but I hadn't realized it was that bad. He pulled his face back from Gabby's devouring lips and cast me an apologetic look that he hadn't talked to me first. I nodded, thunderstruck. My chest felt tight that Ollie had kept something this big from me. I plastered on my smile as I skirted around the living room, accidentally bumping into 3 of my friends before I slipped into the safety of my bedroom. Before I could lock the door, it opened. "Hey, October." I turned to find Beto with that same familiar smile on his face. Mason sneaked in behind him and made to lie down in the corner of the room, feigning sleep. Beto had black hair, brown skin, and a round face that was friendly to everyone. His jeans were faded, and his flannel shirt was untucked. While everyone in the world felt much taller than I was, Beto had only an inch on me, which had been nice when we were dating in our constant loop of on again and off again. He leaned against the wall to take a breather from the noise of the party. "Hey, Beto, how's it going?" "Oh, you know, Gabby." He explained his presence in my home with a shrug. "Nice to see you. You're looking good." "You too." I didn't feel the need to fill the silence since he was the one with something to say. I gave him a few seconds to work up whatever it was that had him shoving his hands in his pockets, a thing he did when he was nervous. My special casual guy was 8 years older than me, so it was always a surprise when I made him nervous. "So I don't know if this is something I'm supposed to tell you or not, but in case it is, here you go. Jessica and I have been hanging out a lot, and it just started to turn into something." He watched my face for a reaction, so I vowed not to give him anything more than the color draining from my face. "I didn't want you to hear it from someone else." "Oh, well, thanks for the heads up, I guess. Good for you. She's great." She was great. She was currently in my living room laughing at one of Nick's hilarious jokes. I'd known her for years. The girls in our group did dinner and a movie once a month. And at the last one, 3 weeks ago, she hadn't said anything about hooking up with Beto. I guess that it must have been only a few days they'd been flirting. "That's great, Beto. Happy for you both, and thanks again for the heads up." He kept his brown eyes averted, addressing the wall behind me instead of my face. Yeah, I just got tired of waiting for you. If it was right, it would have happened by now, you know? I nodded, guessing I should have seen this coming. Really, I can't believe he'd stuck around as long as he had. He'd always wanted to be exclusive and move forward into more serious things, but I hadn't wanted that. I wasn't built for it. I'd kept him on hold for too long, and now I'd lost him. Sounds logical. Cool. Jessica's been freaking out for like 2 months. She thinks you're going to hate her. I don't hate her. My nose wrinkled. Wait, 2 months? You've been together for 2 months? Beto, we broke it off, what, a month and a half ago? He cleared his throat. Yeah, there was a little overlap. I was shocked, though maybe I shouldn't have been. Maybe I should have known better. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten as close as I did to Beto, which was still never close enough for him to be happy. What do you want me to say to that? Beto shrugged, his hands in his pockets. I don't expect you'll say anything. If you loved me, you'd get upset and tell me where I could go. But you don't, so I know you'll be all right. I hurt your pride, not your heart. I kept my glower to myself and swallowed down the anger that rose up in me. I actually came in here to change, so I'm guessing your girlfriend would want you out there with her. That's a nail on the head, then. He touched his forehead in mild frustration, letting the politeness die between us so we could be real for a second. Were you ever even a little serious about me? Was something more ever going to be in the cards for us? Honestly, Beto, you come in here, tell me you cheated on me with my friend, and because I don't scream at you like you deserve, I didn't... You can't even say you loved me in a hypothetical situation? See? That's what I'm talking about. I don't deserve this, I muttered, shaking my head. Instead of leaving, Beto closed the gap between us and wrapped me in a hug. I stiffened on instinct, but softened after a few seconds. Beto knew it took me a few seconds, and he gave them to me graciously, never taking offense. Now he had a real girlfriend who probably never hesitated with a hug. Come to think of it, Jessica wasn't much of a hesitator, so I guessed Beto was far happier than he'd ever been with me. He exhaled as we squeezed each other. I still love you, kid, even if you never loved me. I think about us all the time. Kid was another fabulous nickname. I wasn't sure which one I hated more, Bait or Kid. At least Beto had stopped calling me Bait when we were together. Bonus. I'm guessing you probably shouldn't say stuff like that to me anymore, new girlfriend and all, and maybe don't hug me. I shrugged out of his embrace, realizing that him cheating on me meant I didn't have to make myself be softer around him anymore. Beto's thin lips hardened in a tight line. Fine. I didn't mean to hurt you, you know. Yeah, you did. You could have broken it off and then gone for her, but you had us both. Grade A ass Jack behavior, and you know it. Whatever you think, I didn't mean for it to get messy. And just like that, Beto kissed me goodbye. It was a closed-mouth peck that brushed my lips, but it was laced with the final farewell I'd more than deserved. I wanted to push him away, but knew my violent tendencies weren't my most mature qualities. I could feel Beto's germs now, festering on my mouth where he'd kissed me. I'd worked hard to erase the amoebas that coated him when we'd first started dating, but now all that progress was lost. After Beto left, I sat on my bed and just stared at the wall for a solid 3 minutes. I willed the waves of emotion to die down so I could show my face to Jessica without tear stains marking up the happiness I was supposed to pull out of thin air for her. 2 months meant 2 movie nights we'd gone to with her having been with Beto the whole time. I felt like such a child for missing him, and for saying so at the first movie night to the girls after our last breakup. They'd been sympathetic, but now I knew it was pity. I'd never had much of a stomach for being pitied. Mason hopped up onto the bed and laid down next to me, his head in my lap. I could feel that slow trickle of negative emotion draining and was grateful for the boost. I was so much younger than any of my friends. It made things like crying not an option. Mason picked his head up and licked my cheek. Thanks, buddy. You're a good boy. I buried my face into his fur. We both sighed contentedly when he looped his nose over my shoulder, and my arms encircled him. It's fine, I assured us. It's all fine. Beto should be with someone who can make him happy. Aside from the relationship stacking, he's a good guy, and I'm really fine. Mason snorted his objection, and I giggled softly. Yeah, that was a lie, but I'm trying here. Don't tell anyone, okay? Totally embarrassing to be cheated on. Mason nuzzled the top of his head to my forehead, and I knew that he got me. He understood the pride that ran deeper than the hurt of the moment. And that brings us to the end of chapter 34. Thank you for letting me read to you. We are so almost done with the book. Look at how far we've gotten. I think there's only 41 chapters. What? That means we are very, very close to the end. If you want to read ahead, right now, all the ebooks at all major retailers for the book Taste are free as of this recording. So if you want to read ahead, you can download it for free and read ahead. Or you can get it on audiobook where an actual professional reads to you, or on paperback, or on this beautiful hardcover. I hope you have a lovely day. Thanks for spending time with me. And I'll see you next week for Tuesdays with Tuesday.